On Indianapolis this week, honoring Indiana's military heroes, the new program to honor the best of the best who have served. The public health crisis spreading across the state, a second county opening a needle exchange program. We talked to the state's health commissioner. Plus, after the Supreme Court rulings, our one-on-one with Congressman Luke Messer about what happens now in Washington and around the country.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
And thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week. Rafael will join us just a bit later. And you can join us in our conversation right now by going to our new Twitter account at Indy This Week. We're going to start by tackling a public health emergency in the state of Indiana. State officials have approved a needle exchange program to open in Madison County, the second county to open an exchange under a new state law. Health authorities there are trying to stop the spread of hepatitis C among IV drug users. And there's concern that more counties may need to ask for help. We're joined now by Dr. Jerome Adams, the state health commissioner for Indiana. He's been on the job since last October now. He's also a staff anesthesiologist at Eskenazi Health and has his master's in public health from the University of California, Berkeley. But today he's hanging out with us. Dr. Adams, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Let's talk about this ongoing needle exchange program in both Scott and Madison counties right now and talk about first how it actually works.
Well, that's a great question. As you know, we had an unprecedented outbreak of HIV in Scott County. We are now at 172 total positives, but I'm very happy to say that the number of new cases that we're getting each week has gone down tremendously. It was 0 last week, 2 this week, compared to a peak of 22 cases in mid-April. So we really feel like we're getting a handle on this outbreak. But as part of the response, the governor authorized a needle exchange program as part of a comprehensive program to combat the outbreak. That was authorized through his executive order, which ended in May. But fortunately, the legislature passed a law that allows needle exchange programs in different parts of the state that have identified themselves as having an epidemic, that meet with their county commissioners and hold a public meeting to get community buy-in, which is an important part of this, and then make a request of me to declare a public health emergency. In Scott County, we really have what has been a nationally recognized response where we don't offer not only clean needles, but additionally we offer HIV testing, we offer connections to addiction and recovery services, we offer connections to HIV treatment if you've been diagnosed. We get people signed up for health insurance through the Healthy Indiana plan, which is now an option for Hoosiers, and offer really wraparound services so that people aren't just getting needles, but they're getting a connection to care.
You have tracked these outbreaks down to some very specific regions in those counties. How is your department able to do that?
Well, first of all, we have really great disease investigation specialists who go around whenever there's a positive case, it's reported to the state, and they go out into the community and they talk to the individual and find out who the individual has engaged in high-risk activity with. From that, they identify further contacts and go out and investigate each of those contacts, invite them to be tested, and from there we can really pinpoint where the problem has occurred. And in this case, it's really been focused around Austin, which is a town within Scott County.
What about critics of programs like this who say that fostering these needle exchange programs and giving out these needles, distributing these needles, helps to foster illegal drug use? Well,
I think it's a fair conversation to have, and the sentiment has been, at least in Indiana, that is the case. However, the science suggests that if you utilize syringe exchange programs as part of a comprehensive public health response, there's actually no evidence that it increases use of drugs, and actually that it can decrease use of drugs because, again, you're using it as a connection to care, a connection to services. Every opportunity that you engage that person is an opportunity to get them into recovery.
And what do you think would happen in those areas without a program like this right now?
Well, in Scott County, again, it's been a critical part of what is a comprehensive response. And so it's a great question you ask, because many people try to look at it in a vacuum and say, well, we need syringe exchange programs everywhere. Well, not necessarily. What we need to do everywhere is to engage the community, to present them with their data, which we've done. We've sent every county throughout Indiana a report card showing their hepatitis and HIV rates and their overdose rates in their counties. And then we call them up and have a discussion with them and say, well, what are you doing to combat these rates? Are you testing people appropriately? Do you have ways for them to get treatment if they want it? And at the end of that, then we can determine whether or not a syringe exchange program is an important ancillary part of that comprehensive package.
And finally, Dr. Adams, while we have a few seconds left here, you've got an exciting health fair coming up.
Yes, we've got the InShape Indiana Black and Minority Health Fair coming up July 16th through 19th. I encourage everyone to come by. We'll be doing health screenings and providing lots of information so that people can live healthier lives.
Your department and staff very busy getting ready for it. Dr. Adams, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
And still to come on this Sunday, the High Court has ruled on same-sex marriage and health care. So will Congress consider a constitutional amendment or possibly repealing the Affordable Care Act? We'll talk with Congressman Luke Messer. That's next on Indianapolis This Week. And welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we continue to see the fallout from two historic rulings from the United States Supreme Court, upholding the subsidies to help millions of Americans pay for health insurance under the Affordable Care Act, and legalizing same-sex marriage in every state. And on Monday, striking down new regulations from the EPA on power plant emissions. We're joined this morning by Congressman Luke Messer. Congressman Messer, thanks for being here with us.
Glad to be here.
It's been a very active last couple of weeks in Washington, D.C., of course, and let's start with the Supreme Court upholding same-sex marriage nationwide. Your thoughts when the court ruling came down?
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed in the ruling because I thought it was an overreach. Tell you, my faith informs my traditional view of marriage, but it also informs the belief that we have to treat everybody in America with dignity and respect. I trust that Hoosiers are now going to come together after this hearing. We've got some challenging days in front of us, but I think we'll come together as a community.
Do you feel that the Supreme Court's ruling, for now at least, is the law of the land, and that there will not be a challenge to possibly an amendment to overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe it's the law of the land. I think it's important that we now enforce the law. This is one of those issues where reasonable people can disagree. I frankly don't want a federal government big enough to define your marriage, and therefore I'm not somebody who supports a federal constitutional amendment. You know, you can't help but be moved by these events around the country where people clearly are feeling from their heart that this is an enormous moment for them. There's also millions of Americans that believe their beliefs have been trampled on by the court. I trust, though, that our community is going to come together through all this, as we have as a community time and time again over hundreds of years.
Let's stay in Washington now. The White House and the Obama administration also celebrating a win when it comes to the Affordable Care Act in the Supreme Court. When it comes to the Affordable Care Act now, are there still efforts ongoing in Washington and the Republican Party to get rid of it?
Well, I mean, the Supreme Court can issue its ruling, again, one I'm disappointed in, but their ruling doesn't change the fact that the law is unpopular. It doesn't change the fact that millions of Americans have seen their health care costs go up. Some lost their insurance. Tens of millions can't afford deductibles under this plan. So I think what you will see Republicans do is work this summer to, try to present a bill to the president that would change the law. But I also think after this ruling, Republicans have a responsibility to come forward with our own plan, how we would deal with health care in our country. I think looking at tax credits, not subsidies, allowing competition across state lines, which would drop the cost of health insurance, looking at an Indiana-like medical malpractice plan that would reduce one of the biggest drivers of spiking health care costs as well, and then looking at innovations like medical savings accounts that would allow families to set money aside, save that money in a tax-free way, and use it in their health care as well.
It's not all celebrations in the White House. The Supreme Court also ruling against the EPA in a provision that would block certain certain coal-fired emissions. Your thoughts on that ruling?
Well, it's a historic ruling. It reins in the EPA and tells them that, yes, it's your responsibility to make sure we have a healthy environment, but you also need to look at the cost of those rules and regulations as well. You know, we all want clean water. We all want clean air. We also want a healthy economy, and the EPA needs to find ways to balance our protections of each American and their needs from the environment with the needs to have a job and have a healthy economy. It's been particularly troublesome in Indiana, where coal is such an important part of how we receive our energy here. This administration's rules and regulations have driven up the costs of electricity and other energy. So I think this is a big day and a big victory for Americans.
Your thoughts on the state of the Republican Party right now in the Hoosier State?
Well, listen, I'm a big believer in the Republican Party because I'm a big believer in our results. First with Mitch Daniels, then with Governor Pence. This has been a party that has demonstrated statewide that we can be a party of purpose, that we can not only espouse conservative principles, but we can show how those principles govern. I think the challenge we have as a party is we got to come together. The challenges we face in having a healthy economy, having strong classrooms, keeping our budgets balanced, having a healthy, clean environment, all of these require us to be together as a team. That's what my focus is going to be as a leader.
It's really a wide open Republican field in the presidential race. Any favorites so far? Do you have any idea who might surge out of this pack?
Well, there's a lot of really strong candidates, several of them that I think would make a great president. To me, more than anything, what we need is a leader who will rally America to its purpose, that will help us understand that this is a country full of good and decent people, and that throughout the generations, when we come together, great things happen for our country and great things happen in the world. The leader that calls our country to that's the leader that's going to win, and I think they're going to be the next president.
A very safe answer early in this election cycle. Congressman Nestor, thanks so much for being here with us today. And still to come on this Sunday, Rafael joins our political insiders on what this week has meant for the races in 2016. That's next on Indianapolis This Week.
Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we welcome in our political insiders, Democrat Adam Kirsch, Republican Pete Seat on this 4th of July weekend. They are dressed in style. Gentlemen, let me give you an A+ on your seersucker suits.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. We probably won't wear those on the Now Indy where we kind of match a lot.
We're doing our best.
You're doing your best. I'll tell
Bipartisanship, right?
Bipartisanship. Let's talk about the race for U.S. Senate. On the Republican side, we know that Eric Holcomb, your person you're working with, and Marlin Stutzman are seeking that seat on the Republican side. But we learned today that Christina Hale will not be running on the Democratic side. She will not be joining Baron Hill. What is going on?
Well, Representative Hale is elected to stay in the House of Representatives, which quite frankly is probably a gain for the Indiana House Democrats. She's been a good legislator there, and I think we'll see more of her in the future. What's interesting is that her exit has entered Mayor Tom McDermott in Hammond is considering to run, as is a young up-and-comer named Suraj Patel. So I don't think the Democratic field is set yet.
Will we see more Republicans on the U.S. Senate race side?
Well, rumor has it Todd Young, congressman from the southern part of the state, will be jumping in within days potentially. But I would add on the Democratic side, I think Baron Hill needs a primary challenge. Democrats frequently clear the field thinking it will give them a competitive advantage in the general. It doesn't turn out. John Gregg, Brad Ellsworth, Dave Crooks, and others. And Baron Hill has a checkered electoral past. He needs a primary challenger to sharpen him if he's to be the eventual nominee.
Let's talk about the race for mayor. Some groups filed some 7,000 signatures for a Reverend Charles Harrison, who runs a 10-point coalition. He has yet to announce that he's running for anything. He was surprised. He said he was humbled by this. Is Reverend Harrison running for mayor of Indianapolis?
Well, he announced he was going to explore running, and then he took his name out. Then he announced he was going to explore running, then he took his name out. And now these petitions have sort of shown up from who knows where. They were circulated by a Republican-oriented petition firm, so somebody's backing this effort, and who, we don't know. Reverend Harrison has said it's not him.
Who does this help? Who does this hurt if he does decide to enter the race?
Well, I'm not quite sure. It depends on who's behind it and what their motivations are. It could just be an indication that people are fed up with the political process and they want a new voice and a new name in there. But as of this moment, it is Joe Hogsett or Chuck Brewer. One of them will be our next mayor unless something changes.
Well, and one of the interesting ones is the Libertarians did not field a candidate. There was talk that Reverend Harrison would be their candidate, and then he wasn't. So that may be something there, but we don't know yet.
We'll see by July 17th, which I believe is a deadline. The other big issue, of course, is that the banning of sex offenders from church, if it's on a school property, could now violate RFRA, according to an ACLU lawsuit. What is going on with this RFRA situation?
Well, I would say it's too early to tell. We're just days into the law taking effect. I'm no lawyer, but it's my understanding that the state would have to make a case that they have a compelling interest to keep these individuals away from schools and away from potentially coming into contact with children. So if they can make that case in a court of law, then this will be shot down, but we'll see what happens.
We saw all the negative effects of RFRA during the session. We've seen the First Church of Cannabis. We're now seeing a challenge based on people literally just wanting to go to church and not being allowed to. I think it's just time to repeal the law. I think John Gregg is right. It's time to repeal the law.
I think there's something to be said about people testing the law for PR purposes. I mean, the Church of Cannabis, give me a break. This is nothing more than a front to try and smoke marijuana. That's all it is, and they're trying to take advantage of what they think they can get away with.
You get the last word?
I think the Church of Cannabis is a front for publicity, quite frankly, not necessarily smoking marijuana.
And they've done a pretty good job.
They have.
You guys look good, by the way. Have a good 4th of July. And remember, you can follow our official account at Indy This Week to join the debate and get the latest in political news 24/7. Up next, how you can help Indiana's military heroes when Indianapolis This Week continues. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. On this Independence Day weekend, we want to focus on a new effort designed to honor Indiana's military heroes. That program, the Indiana's Military Veterans Hall of Fame, symbolized in part by these medallions presented to the honorees. And the Hall of Fame is looking for nominations for this year's class right now. Joining us now is Russ Dowden with the Indiana Military Veterans Hall of Fame. Russ, you know, I was surprised that we don't have this Hall of Fame already in place, considering the number of monuments we have to Hoosier veterans in Indianapolis already.
Good observation, Rafael. Good observation. As you very well know, Indianapolis is second only to Washington, D.C. for the number of monuments. But we are in a big group of about 8 other states who are in the process of creating or have already created a Veterans Hall of Fame for their state. I think that my number's right, and it's 8. The last 2 that I know of that went in were Georgia, Arkansas, and now us. And we've been doing it now for a couple of years, and it has gone very, very well. Thank you for last year.
It was a great event. I was not only honored, but I was touched to see the men and women who gave so much to our country, who give so much to our country, yeah, being honored. And so my question to you is, this Hall of Fame, what will it do? How will it promote? How will it say, you know what, these lives mattered?
Well, thank you.
And that these lives matter.
Yeah, and they continue to. And it does a couple of different things. It gives us an opportunity as fellow Hoosiers to say thank you to the men and women who have served our state and our country so very, very well. We've got 2 categories, and those categories are for valor and for service. They recognize the soldier, airman, sailor, Marine, Coast Guard person who have served and served honorably. It recognizes them and says thank you to them. It makes them feel good, it gives pride to their family, and it educates the rest of us on what all of these men and women go through in sacrifice for their country.
And the goal is to have a physical structure where people can actually go and visit, is that right?
It is. We're not there yet. We're still virtual. We anticipate that it will be built at Old Fort Harrison on the north side in Lawrence. I think that we're well on the way to getting that done. I've had some folks look at some property out there. We've got the Reuse Authority, of course, involved. We've got the Mayor of Lawrence, Dean Jessup, who is an enthusiastic supporter of the project. And I anticipate that it'll get built out there. We'll need some funds to do that. This is all private money, no tax dollars involved. And we'll start a campaign in the near future to try to get funding for that.
When you build the structure, what do you hope the experience will be like? For example, when you go to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, you can actually etch the names in. Yep. When you go to the World War II Memorial, you can see the limestone. How will this be different, or how will this honor those men and women?
Right. Well, what we anticipate is that we'll have a structure that's a 5-sided structure, kind of pentagon-shaped, if you will, that will be built largely out of Indiana limestone. On the inside of it, around the walls, we'll have a brass plaque that will have the names of each induction class that comes into the Hall of Fame. We'll have a plaque that shows the members of our first 500 club, we're calling it, our first 100 club, excuse me, that have donated significantly to help us build this thing. And we will have kiosks set up so that that young man or young woman can go in and type in the name.
So interactive. It'll be interactive.
It'll be interactive of their grandfather or their daddy or whomever, and up will pop a picture of them and a little story about them. And that'll all be good. It's a part of the education process.
If people want to connect with this project, how can they reach you?
Very good. They can reach us through a website, www.imvhof, that's Indiana Military Veterans Hall of Fame.com. Go to the website. There's a packet there that can be downloaded that says this is for nomination for this year's class, 2016. We'll have that event on Friday the 13th. Thank you very much for participating again with us. Friday the 13th up in Carmel at the Renaissance Hotel. We need nominations, of course. We need them as
soon as possible. Get them in right now.
Get them in now. Thank you. Last year we had over 50 nominations. We inducted 16 very worthy Hoosiers.
Amazing people.
It was amazing.
Rest out and thank you for service to country.
Well, thank you, sir.
And we appreciate you on this 4th of July weekend. Thank you for coming in, and make sure to support the Indiana Military Veterans Hall of Fame. Thank you so much.
Rafael, thank you.
Yes, sir. And again, the induction ceremony will be Friday, November the 13th in Carmel. I'll be there as well. You can find more information about tickets and a link to download a nomination form by going to our website, theindychannel.com. Look in the Hot Button section. Thank you for joining us for Indianapolis this week. For Jason Fechner and the entire RTV6 team, enjoy your holiday weekend, and we'll see you back here next week on this Sunday, next Sunday, for Indianapolis This Week. Have a great day.